Dark legends often have roots in brutal truth. But few tales blur the line between myth and reality as chillingly as the story of Vlad the Impaler, the man behind the legend of Dracula. While Bram Stoker's fictional vampire haunts the night with a thirst for blood, the real Vlad didn't need fangs to spill it. His weapon of choice, a sharpened wooden stake, driven through the human body while the victim was still alive. Born in 1431, in the fortress town of Sigosora, Transylvania, Vlad III was the second son of Vlad Dracula, a member of the Order of the Dragon, a secret Christian military society sworn to defend Christendom from the Ottoman Turks. That's where his infamous surname Dracula comes from, meaning son of the dragon, or in later usage, son of the devil. From the very beginning, Vlad's life was carved by violence. As a child, he and his younger brother Radu were handed over to the Ottomans as political hostages. Imagine being a boy, imprisoned by the very empire your father fought against, tortured, humiliated, and forced to watch executions as entertainment. This psychological trauma didn't just scar Vlad. It forged him into something terrifying. When he returned to his homeland of Wallachia, it wasn't with a heart full of forgiveness. It was with a thirst for vengeance. Vlad quickly seized the throne, but he wasn't content with simply ruling. He wanted to purge his kingdom of treachery, corruption, and crime. And his method of justice was impalement. Impaling was not just execution. It was theater, a slow, agonizing death where a sharpened stake was inserted through the body, often through the rectum or vagina, and pushed until it exited the chest, neck, or mouth. The goal wasn't speed, it was suffering. Victims could live for hours or even days, writhing in pain, while crows and dogs picked at their flesh. Vlad made sure these executions were public, sometimes arranging hundreds, or even thousands, of bodies into gruesome forests of corpses. One of the most infamous examples occurred in 1462, when the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II invaded Wallachia with over 90,000 troops. But instead of surrendering, Vlad used psychological warfare. As the Sultan's army advanced toward Targovist, they were met with a horrifying sight. 20,000 impaled corpses lining the road. Men, women, and even children. The message was clear: enter at your own peril. Even hardened soldiers were paralyzed with fear. What's even more disturbing is who Vlad chose to impale. It wasn't just enemies of the state. It was noblemen who betrayed him, foreign merchants who disrespected Wallachia, and even his own people who were deemed lazy, dishonest, or immoral. According to legend, he once invited hundreds of beggars and poor people to a grand feast, only to lock the doors and burn the building down, declaring they were a burden to society. Vlad's brutality wasn't random. It was political. Wallachia was caught between the Ottoman Empire and the Christian kingdoms of Hungary and the Holy Roman Empire. Vlad used terror as a form of control, sending a message not just to his people, but to the world. Betray me and you'll die screaming. But here's where the real horror blends with myth. European pamphlets of the time, especially German ones, depicted Vlad as a demonic figure who drank the blood of his victims, ate meals surrounded by impaled corpses, and dipped his bread in human blood. These weren't written to document history, they were propaganda. But they fed into the growing folklore of a bloodthirsty ruler, a real-life vampire whose taste for violence was insatiable. Meanwhile, Romanian stories told a different tale. In Wallachia, Vlad was seen not as a monster but as a hero, a strict, even righteous ruler who punished the wicked and brought law to a chaotic land. He protected the borders from the Ottomans, demanded justice for the poor, and didn't tolerate corruption. To them, his cruelty wasn't sadism, it was discipline. This duality is what makes Vlad so haunting. He wasn't a cartoon villain. He was a man forged by betrayal, war, and survival. And in a world soaked in blood, he didn't just play the game, he rewrote the rules. One of the most spine-chilling stories comes from a Hungarian account. A monk claimed that Vlad once dined outside while hundreds of people were being impaled around him. When a guard covered his nose due to the overwhelming stench of death, Vlad had him impaled immediately, saying, "You must get used to such smells." How did a man so brutal become the inspiration for Count Dracula? In the late 1800s, Irish author Bram Stoker was researching Eastern European legends when he came across the name Dracula in an old history book. He never visited Romania. He likely knew little about Vlad's life. But the name, its meaning, and the whispers of a cruel ruler who drank blood was enough to spark the fire. Stoker's Dracula may be fiction, but his roots are tangled in real-life horror. Today, Vlad's castle, Poenary Fortress, still stands high in the Carpathian Mountains. It's not the Hollywood-style Bran castle often associated with Dracula, but the real citadel where Vlad lived and ruled. Visitors must climb over 1,400 steps to reach its crumbling walls. And when they do, many say they feel something watching them. Perhaps it's just the wind. Or perhaps Vlad the Impaler's legacy still lingers, not just in ruins, but in the dark corners of history where truth is more terrifying than fiction. Centuries have passed since Vlad the Impaler ruled Wallachia, yet his shadow remains etched into the world's darkest legends. Some call him a sadist, others a misunderstood patriot, but none can deny that his legacy is soaked in blood. He was both savior and savage, hero and horror, and in that contradiction lies his enduring power. In modern Romania, he's remembered with pride. Statues stand in his honor. His face appears on coins. School children know him as the voivode who resisted the Ottomans when Europe trembled. But in the West, he lives on as a monster, Dracula, the eternal vampire, lurking in castles, feeding on the living. But maybe the real horror isn't in fangs or folklore. Maybe it's in how history itself gets rewritten. How a man who ruled with impalement becomes an icon. How mass murder becomes myth, and how bloodshed becomes bedtime stories. As we peel back the layers of Dracula's legend, we find something far more terrifying than fiction. A man who used fear as a weapon, who blurred the line between justice and cruelty, and whose truth was darker than any novel could ever capture. So the next time you hear the name Dracula, don't just think of bats and castles. Remember the screams echoing from the impalement fields of Wallachia. Remember the sharpened stakes, the rivers of blood, and the man who didn't need immortality to become a legend. Because monsters aren't born in fiction. Sometimes, history creates them. Belle, if you thought the story was dark, wait till you see what royalty did behind closed doors in 17th century France. Hit subscribe, because the next tale might be even bloodier.